Good afternoon, and thank you very much for coming here this afternoon, of which you could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're here with me. I would like to share with you my thoughts on who For Us is and what we're about, what we stand for, and which way and direction that we're taking moving forward. For Us is an inclusive liberal party with a transformational socio-economic agenda that promotes equal opportunities and a fair distribution of wealth in a transparent manner. For Us's pledge is to create opportunities around the wealth we have as a nation, developing a proper economic transformation agenda that should rebuild the nation to pursue national interest. We pledge to stick to core values, which are diligence, social justice, transparency, equality, and accountability. Our aim is to see a free and open society where there is a balance on the basic fundamental human rights, where there is a guarantee that no one will be enslaved by poverty, corruption, or violence. The party values peace, prosperity, and the citizens' diversity, understanding that our role is to nurture citizens, to meaningfully contribute towards national building. We pledge to fulfill democratic values that the others have failed to fulfill and attain. Our main objectives For Us is to promote and effectively advance harmony amongst all classes of citizens in this country, paying little attention to ethnicity, race, color, faith, status, disability, gender preference, and the status and occupation of public arena or political affiliation. For Us aims to ensure that the nation maintains cordial ties with all countries that regard our power and trustworthiness as a nation, to promote goals that reinforce and put in economic engagements of all African nations, the Commonwealth, and the United Nations. Searching for development of friendships with all ideological parties in Africa and other countries who share the party's liberal and majority belief in the rule of law. Our aim is to develop good territorial relations and maintain relations to advance and uphold the values of democracy and the rule of law in Africa and the international arena. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Manyara Zimbabwe. She's so eloquent and straight to the point. She didn't take much time. I think it's now open to my members of the press. I think we will try by all means. Okay. So I think at this point in time, I think we would allow Mr. Byron to assist us. To those who are going to ask questions, let's hope I think it's going to be short and precise, to the point, so that we will not waste much time. Thank you so much. I think we'll give out the press statement for those who may want hard copies. For those who may want electronic, we can also send it to you. Thank you.
Colleague media, just now, I think you have been listening attentively to the presentation that has been shared with you, and it is time that we open the floor for questions and interventions. I thank you. Mr. Mulo, I can see you are beginning to shoot from the hip. You can go ahead.
Fine. I didn't get much, but probably my call to
you can identify yourself.
My name is Mlondolozi Ndlovu. I'm with the Voice of America, Studio 7. So my question to Your Excellency, Madam, probably my request is that next time when you organize these engagements with members of the fourth estate, probably your party members should stay away from, we know that they love you so much and they really wish you well, but you should encourage them from these gatherings, because sometimes it disturbs our work. So my question to you is, where have you been and why now? That's the first question. The second question is, given the terrain of the Zimbabwean political landscape, do you think you are going to be able, to navigate the political landmines that are associated with Zimbabwe's political field, given that you, from the little things that I read about you, from the diaspora and being female, and other challenges that are associated with being a presidential candidate outside the mainstream political party? Do you think we are going to be able, and how different are you going to be? Then lastly, assuming you lose the elections, which I think you will in 2023, are you going to join the Political Actors Dialogue Poland, which others are after bidding to join? Is this not just one of those initiatives to get a car?
All right. Thank you very much. Allow me to give the President the room to respond, since Mr. Modernization has asked quite a number of questions, so that before she forgets about some of the questions, she tries to tackle them right now. Over to you, Madam President.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your questions. It's quite a long stretch, but I'll make sure that I'll fill in on each and every question that you've given. I understand what you're saying about, I think, the voters. As you can understand, it's a very new party and everybody's very excited. But I will take on board what you have said in regards to people coming in. As you can understand, it is a small room, of which I did mention that it is a small room. But as you can understand, I think the passion is there, so we have to recognize that as well and allow things to pan out naturally. Yeah. And on your first question, I have been around. I was born here. I'm from Chipinge myself. That's where my origins are from. I went to school here, I studied here, but then went on to the UK around the early 2000s. I'm sure you could understand that quite a lot of people were flocking to the UK around that time due to probably economic reasons, whatever diversified reasons that each and every one of us had in particular. That was my reason, I think, to go and educate myself and just probably spread my wings a bit and understand outside of Zimbabwe what it is that is out there as well. What is it that I have missed in the world that I would like to know about? And as well, I think, to know more, as we understand, I think the education here in Zimbabwe is mainly theoretical. But as you go outside in other parts, especially the western parts of the world, you find they are much more practical in their approach. So I think that was quite helpful for me. I think leaving this country and going to UK and blending, I think, the theory that I learned from here and then the practical guide that the UK had to give, for me to attain whatever career prospects that I had at that particular time. And going on to your second question, I think it is about Poland, is it? Sorry, I'm just trying to...
the political dialogue, yeah.
Very much so, yeah. We are an independent party. We're not going to join Poland. And what we're trying to do is to seek new reforms on the best way on tackling whatever negotiations or issues that are at hand. So we're a new party. We're trying to come in with new resolutions, new ideas, new ways of looking at things. Looking at it, would it be Poland that we can look at and the narrative of Poland? Is it working for everybody? Is it a one-sided issue? Do we need to intervene from a different angle? So these are all the things as a new party. We're not going to probably going into the old negotiations of whatever is taking place. We're trying to find and seek new reforms as a new party. And what was your third question?
How are you going to navigate being female, being new?
I know that there is that stigma, isn't it? I think around us females that you were not accepted, not just Zimbabwe, I think it's mainly Africa. But what you find is, I think the tides are shifting. You've got quite a lot of women, I think, who are engaging themselves in these senior positions. And you find that I think one of the main things that I did put in my constitution was to allow 50% of representation of women in parliament. And we have to start somewhere. I'm sure there are one or two females, that have already started the journey, but I would like to, couple up with them and see which way we can go, how far we can take ourselves, and actually just empower girls, especially in Africa. A lot of girls do suffer. The only thing that you find with girls is I think the way they're groomed is you finish your education, the next thing you're looking up to is just marriage. But there is life beyond that. You know, there is a career beyond that. You know, you can choose to marry, you can choose not to marry. You know, these are some of the freedom, I think that for us, you know, stands for, so that we can look beyond the horizon for our girls, not just girls. I'm sure boys are facing the same situation. You know, I grow up, I've got to be the breadwinner of the family. Women can be a breadwinner as well. Can we not work, you know, as in unison, you know, a girl and a boy coming together, whatever, in a relationship, and bring something to the table? I think that's the idea that for us is trying to bring forward. So there isn't anything that you can say about for us that, you know, nothing will deter us. Me being a woman is actually giving me more strength to push even further. And in terms of navigation, my education is my navigation. I don't need anybody else to show me what navigation I have to take. The experience that I have in the endeavors that I've done, you know, gives me the confidence and the navigation, the compass that I need, you know, to propel me in the right direction that I want to partake. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we will go to another person. I've got my comrade here, also known as Mr. Can you please?
My name is Gibson Katrina. I'm a freelance journalist. So, from your introduction, you have got vast business interests, and your party is representing the liberal political and economic philosophy. So how does that contextualize and speak to the ordinary person in Africa, especially in this moment where we are trying to decolonize the mentality that your business interests, they are liberal, too Western. So how will you also separate your business interests with the vast economic resources which the country has, considering that you have that, and really speaking to what the local person can expect? And isn't it a way of trying to infuse some Western political ideologies which might not be relevant to ongoing local things?
Thank you very much. That is a very interesting question. What I would like to say is, I think you're trying to understand who for us is as well initially in your question. We are a centralist party. We're very much central. We are not far right. We're not far left. If you're far left, you're much more socialist. And then if you're far right, you're much more capitalist. What we're trying to do is come in the middle and mix the two. You know, the socialists on the other side, you know, those small minority groups, you know, who haven't got a voice, who haven't got a chance to go on the business ladder. We would like to listen to them. We would like to hear their values, their views, you know, where they want to go. We would like to listen to the far right group as well, which is more businesses, capitalists and things like that, and trying to understand and see if we can merge the two, so that you do not have a huge gap in between, whereby the socialist side is very poor and then the capitalist side is very, very rich, which is what you're finding here in Zimbabwe, that, you know, you're missing the middleman. You know, the youth is missing. Who is the middleman? You know, whereby, have you got businesses, ventures that you have got? You're coming from the socialist side of you. You're poor. What is it that we can do for you? How can we merge the two? How can we marry the two, the socialist side and the capitalist side, so that we can reach a homeostatic balance, so that we can save all? We save the business side. We save, you know, our people, our poor people in the economic, in the poor side as well. And in terms of businesses, you will find in any business that you partake, there are guidelines as to how you run a business, whether it be humanitarian, whether it be for socio-economic reasons, whether it be whatever for profit, whatever your reason is on starting a business and how you operate it. There are guidelines to separate and put demarcations on what type of business you're running. So I'm not mixing the two, but you find there is a thin line between humanitarian work and politics. if you're doing it right, because you're there to serve the people, you're there to help the people, you're there to understand what is it that is troublesome to our society that we can put right. So that's how I understand business and politics to mingle. So that's how, for us, views is ethos in trying to understand, the socialist side and the capitalist side. And going on to bringing in probably Western cultures, to this country, whereby it might not be relatable. One thing I have to say is, I think our education started off, being colonialist. Not that I'm saying I'm supporting that, but then we merged well with that, and obviously we had to find our own way in terms of the direction that we wanted in education, recently or currently. But what I'm saying is, whatever we learn as a country, we pick from other countries. You look at, I would like to give India as an example, a very poor country, but then what it did is it had to look at, okay, how do other countries operate? Those that have done well. You're looking at those who are operating on a lower margin, those who are operating on the middle margin, and those who are operating at a higher margin. So when you've got that strata, of different levels, you can actually pull out the things that are necessary to you on your particular stage, on where your country is. So it's actually relevant and relatable to see to all different stratas of countries' level of economic growth. So that's how I operate. I look at all different levels. I'll look at poor countries, how are they performing badly? Those who are in the middle region, how are they operating? Those westernized countries like America, UK, the whole of Europe, even within the whole of Europe, you do have other countries that do struggle, and they have to copy and learn, from other countries that are doing very well. So it's always very good to look at all levels of production from different countries, though it might not be relatable, but it is useful for you to see, okay, from that angle, what direction can we take, and from that angle, at what level can we measure ourselves, so it's all of that, that you have to take into consideration.
Thank you, Madam President. I don't see female hands. We are a party that thrives on gender balance and equity. Any lady with a hand up? Yes, madam. Identify yourself first.
My name is Victoria Stoli. I'm with Heart and Soul. I wanted to ask, she was referring to modernizing, like the Zimbabwean culture and whatnot. Modernization is more of a Western theory. So to those who would actually allude the statement to trying to recolonize Zimbabwe, what would she say to that?
Okay.
I think the time for colonialism, is way past its time. I'm sure each and every country has been given its sovereign, and you find each and every country will try as much as it can to protect that sovereign and that freedom. There might be modernization. I think we're talking about, where I'm coming from is economic modernization, not modernization in terms of slavery, because we've gone past that. I'm sure Zimbabwe was given its independence. If you're looking at each and every country in the world, I'm sure it's got its own independence. So the modernization that I'm talking about is economic emancipation, is what I'm talking about. Not the sense of slavery as to day robbery in the way that people live their day-to-day lives. What I'm looking at is modernization in the sense that if I have got a career and I want to teach, and I find myself that I'm selling tomatoes on the road, and yet I've got a qualification in teaching, that is the wrong modernization of doing things. And you cannot say you're copying from the West. That type of modernization. The person is learned in Zimbabwe. They've qualified and taken so many years, to ponder on education and receive these qualifications. So if I'm now selling tomatoes, then I'm not understanding what type of modernization it can be for any country, you might say. So that's where I'm coming from, that, if we have studied and we're meant to be in these certain positions, we need to see that. We need to see teachers in classrooms teaching, because that is what their passion is about. They're not meant to be selling tomatoes in the streets. So that is the modernization that I'm talking about.
All right. Thank you. I will now go to Mr. Lovejoy Mutongwiza. Introduce yourself. I think after Mr. Lovejoy Mutongwiza, I'll open the floor for a male and a female, so that we are again balanced. And we probably could close this because of time. You can shoot from the hip, Mr. Mutongwiza.
Okay. My name is Lovejoy Mutongwiza. I'm from Tufufuka. I think I've got two questions. Zimbabwe is largely a young country with a lot of youth. What is your vision for the young people of Zimbabwe? How are you going to ensure that there are jobs for them, social security for them? That's one. Two, again, Zimbabwe is a country that is highly polarized. How do you intend to unite the people of Zimbabwe from cultural perspective, different cultural perspectives, and different political affiliations? I think we've got the MDC there, ZANU-PF there, how do you intend to unite the country? And probably the last one would be, if you were to become a president today, you'll be dealing with highly politicized security chiefs. How are you going to handle them? How are you going to ensure that they respect you? Because at one point, they refused to respect the then Prime Minister, the late Morgan Tsvangirai. How are you going to ensure that you command their respect?
I see. Those are very, very interesting questions, very relatable as well. I think I'll start with the youth. We've got a huge program that we have. I think the MIM Foundation that I opened, which is, I think, initials of my name, Manyara, Irene, and Zoa. You find we've got quite a lot of youth, that we have enrolled in different positions in trying to make them understand, that you can start with that bottom-up approach. I think they're starting with the poultry projects, starting off small and then going on further and further and multiply whatever, projects, that it might not be just necessarily poultry. It might be other ideas, that they've got. So we are looking into our youth programs and seeing, what is it that we can give them. Nothing grandiose, but something as a startup. So we are, I think, open to all youth who have been to MIM. I'm sure can vouch for us to say that they've been to see us. We've sat down and we've discussed, and some of them are working with us, trying to understand how the project operates so that they can gain experience. I think it's all different type of youth that we've got. I think different universities, Bindura University, the UZ itself. So we do have youth programs that we have that youth can look forward to. So that's one of the main things that for us is all about youth empowerment. I think if you're listening to what I was saying, is that middle person that is missing. Who are the youth, who have now been derailed or have lost, track, I think due to the economic pains that they're seeing, that the country is not going anywhere. But for us is here to give you hope, to say, we'll start off small, but it's something, but start small and then you get bigger. So we are there for our youth, and we've got programs that are in place to make sure, that happens. And your second question was on, sorry?
Uniting the polarized...
the polarized situation. Yeah, you'll find that, I think, when we follow individuals, which is what Zimbabwe is about, you're bound to have polarization. But if you follow the rule of law and the right policies, the truth to power itself, and what is freedom, you'll find that that will dilute, that scenario. And you'll find that you will have people not actually saying, what, I'm far left and I'm far right and this is where I belong. When you open up your eyes, you find actually you need to look at the policies. Is this person making sense? I think I'm bringing in, that I want to bring in the Western culture, but just mixing with the West, what you find is ministers are there to serve. You know, what is it that you've got on your paper? What policies have you got for me to understand you? Not to follow you, but to understand what is it that you're going to do for me. Are you going to create employment for me? You know, are you going to help our GDP? What is it that you're going to put in front of us so that we can say, you know what, we will follow your ethos. We don't follow individuals. We follow ethos. We follow people's policies. We follow, and I'm sure with that you can actually change to say, you know what, your policies don't make sense for me, even though you're an individual, but this actually makes sense. You know, I can see it's tangible. I can see that I've got a life in this, which is what I think probably Zimbabweans need to learn, that it's not about following an individual. It's about following what is the economic input that this person is bringing, because when you do that, that's helping the country. That is creating jobs. That is helping, you know, it's got a knock-on effect, isn't it? You put in good policies, you come up with good ideas, you know, that's what we want to hear. You know, I don't want to follow a certain individual for the sake of following an individual. What is that going to bring me? Guess what? This is where we are now. Because we're following certain individuals. What is that all about? What we need is policies that are tangible, that are relatable, that you can actually touch and say, you know what, this is going to bring the change that we want to see. And that's what for us is all about. And the last question,
Yeah, it was on how are you going to deal with the securities? You're highly political or politicized securities.
Very much so. I think it boils down to the issue of respect, is how I would put it down to. What you find is my conduct, the way I apply myself, I think would be the same way that whoever is around me, be it security, be it whoever is a member of the party, will respect me, because the way I hold myself, the way I apply myself is reciprocal. So you find how I treat you is the same way you treat me back. So I wouldn't probably anticipate with the way that I am that I will have such certain fiascos because I think those who know me, I do handle myself in a very professional manner. So to a point that, you know, I think even probably for somebody to think that they're going to be create an antagonistic scenario would be probably something that will never entertain their mind. So I think it just boils down to the way you conduct yourself and be respectful to others the same way that you want them to respect you.
Thank you. The final two, for the sake of time. I want a lady in the guy. Okay, it should be one person per person.
No, one.
One person?
Yeah.
Okay. Let us now go down. Sophia wants to talk. You can go ahead. You can ask.